question the narrative of mainstream media, our government, and corporations. For those of you that are new to the channel, please subscribe, like, and follow us on social media. We did just launch our Discord channel, which is creating a community and a safe place for everybody to share articles, videos, have open discussion on several different topics for things that we think are affecting our freedom, or just want to have logic and reasonable conversation to question things that are being put in front of us and come up with our own, decisions and think for ourselves. So please join the Discord channel. There will be information in the description below for how to do that. For those of you that this is the first episode you're watching, the first couple episodes that we are doing on the podcast are going to be geared toward vaccination. And specifically, we're going to just look at the information provided on the CDC's website. I think that some of the things I've read are pretty ambiguous, and I have some questions about it. So, we're not going to be using any other sources because we want the validity of it, everybody to say, okay, CDC is a pretty common source for everything. So what we're going to get started with is the polio virus. And I think that's a huge one because a lot of people, say, well, vaccination and polio has been eradicated because of vaccines and all these different things. And it's really one of the things that I hear of is a rebuttal when people question vaccines, right? From people that don't. So we're starting there, and on the CDC's website, it goes, what is polio, right? And, well, polio is a disabling and life-threatening disease caused by the polio virus, right? So the symptoms of polio are, number one, 72 out of 100 will not have any visible symptoms. So that's 72% of people won't have any visible symptoms. And then 25 out of 100, or 1 out of 4, with polio will have flu-like symptoms, which may include sore throat, fever, tiredness, nausea, headache, and stomach pain, which are pretty mild. So that is 25%. You take the 72%. That's essentially is 97% of people that do get the polio virus are going to either have no visible symptoms or have very mild symptoms, right? CDC goes on to say that a smaller portion of people, much less than 1 out of 100 or 1 to 5 out of 100 or 1,000 with polio virus infection will develop other more serious symptoms. And, to do the math, I took the higher number. So I went with 5 out of 1,000. And what that gives us is 0.5%. So 0.5% of people will develop more serious symptoms. Now, that seems pretty low, 0.5%. I know a lot of people are concerned about, COVID and COVID vaccine and all those types of things. I know I mentioned in the last episode, but, if you take what's some of the people are saying with their hesitancy for, COVID and the COVID vaccine, then, these are, I think that's a lower number, 0.5% for serious symptoms that, one of them is actually death. So I think that's pretty low. So I always question people like, okay, well, if you are so quick to be skeptical and hesitant about the COVID-19 vaccine, then why aren't you with the polio vaccine, right? Because to me, this looks like it's actually less severe symptoms than COVID. So, or maybe not. I think it might be 0.03 with COVID, but so there's 3 types of these symptoms that are going on. It's paresthesia. I don't know if I said that right, but that's feeling of pins and needles in the legs. Then meningitis, which occurs in about 1 out of 25 people with polio, which that is 4%. So I kind of a little confused there when they say 1 to 5 out of 1,000, which equates to 0.5% is going to get more serious symptoms. But then, down here, they state meningitis is one of the serious symptoms, and they're saying 1 out of 25 people with polio virus infection get that, which is 4%. So I don't know how that makes sense mathematically. If you know how, please put it in the comments below. Maybe I'm an idiot. Who knows? Paralysis is another symptom, and it shows that this occurs in about 1 out of 200 people with the polio virus. So that equates to a 0.5% as well. So 0.5%. Paralysis is the most severe symptom associated with polio because it can lead to permanent disability and death. CDC states that between 2 and 10 out of 100 people who have paralysis from polio virus infection die because the virus affects the muscles that help them breathe. That makes sense. So once again, I took the higher number. Instead of 2 out of 10, I just took 10 out of 100, right? And what that comes out to is 0.05%, right? And the reason that is 0.05% is because what it's saying is between 2 and 10, so let's say just 10 out of 100 who have paralysis. So remember, the paralysis is 1 out of 200 people, which is only 0.5%. So out of that 0.5%, 10 out of 100, which is 0.05%, is going to be, or is going to die from it. So once again, pretty low numbers. Obviously, death isn't good, but you know, if you're questioning COVID, I don't know why you're not questioning the polio virus. This was a pretty good eye opener as well, because below that it states that, you know, note that poliomyelitis, I can't even say it, or polio for short, and we're just going to stick with polio, is defined as the paralytic disease. So only people with the paralytic infection are considered to have the disease. So if now what they're saying is that polio is the only considered polio if it's the paralytic infection, then have we really eradicated polio? I don't know, because I think, you know, I'm pretty sure meningitis is still around. It goes around, right? So if meningitis is a symptom and it's one of the, you know, parts of polio, that still occurs. So if they're classifying, you know, the paralytic disease, you know, for polio, and only polio is going to be for the paralytic infection, then does that mean that you just eradicated the paralytic infection and really you didn't eradicate all the rest of polio, right? I think that's a pretty logical question. If you disagree, please leave a comment. Moving on, I thought this was kind of funny because it shows a hieroglyphic of some sort from Egypt. And I mean, it's kind of a small point, but the point about this is, you know, they say polio has been around since ancient times, and they have this hieroglyphic next to it with a person with like their leg raised up. Their leg definitely looks a little bit, you know, smaller than the other leg. They have some sort of cane, right? Well, they say this ancient Egyptian tomb painting shows a man with a withered leg unable to bear weight without use of a walking stick. This means that most muscle fibers are replaced with scarring that is permanent. I don't know how the hell you get that from looking at a picture that somebody carved a couple thousand years ago on a wall to know that that person had polio back then, but I think it's kind of weird. I mean, it's a small point, but it's kind of weird that you're putting it on the CDC's website to be like, and look, this has been around for thousands of years, you know, for a long time. It's on a Egyptian tomb painting. Who says it's polio? I mean, that's kind of a stretch. I mean, I can't rule out that it's not polio. Maybe it is polio that the person has, but I can't. You also can't say it is polio for sure. So I thought that was a little bit weird. Moving on to the transmission, right? So, you know, what is polio? The transmission of polio. How is it transmitted to, you know, from person to person? Well, it shows that polio only infects people. It enters the body through the mouth and spreads through droplets from a sneeze or cough. So contact with feces, poop of an infected person, right? Or droplets from a sneeze or cough of an infected person, which is less common. So the most common way to transmit polio is through poop, feces, right? So you can get infected with the polio virus if you have picked up minute pieces of feces on your hand and touched your mouth, okay? Or you put in your mouth objects like toys that are contaminated with feces. You know, I'm going to go on a stretch here and say that most of this is probably occurring in areas that have poor sewage and, just underdeveloped countries for sure, I would say. Chances of, us putting poop in our mouth in America, I don't see that happening. Even my kid, I don't know the last time I seen them run up to a human feces and rub their toy in it and then stick it in their mouth. If you have that happening, I don't know what you're doing, but definitely feel free to leave a comment about that. That would be interesting. So that's how we're transmitting it, which is a little bit, okay, that's how it's transmitted. But I look at it as a little somewhat far-fetched as far as, what are the chances of that really happening, right? So moving on to the next link is what everyone should know. So when I click on the CDC's website, they have at the bottom this link that says what everyone should know. I click on it, and it comes into, who should get the polio vaccine. Well, infants and children, it goes on to say. And it says children in the United States should get inactivated polio vaccine to protect against polio or poliomyelitis, right? They should get 4 doses total with 1 dose at each of the following ages: 2 months old, 4 months old, 6 through 18 months old, and 4 through 6 years old. Below that, it goes on to, give advice on when, if you're traveling, that children should get 1 dose at age 6 weeks or older, right? And it has a couple other ones, but that one's really, I'm just highlighting because the point of us reading this later on, I'm going to refer back to that. So scrolling through, once again, just like with the last episode, we're seeing, who should not get the polio vaccine. Well, if you have ever had a life-threatening allergic reaction after a dose of IPV or had a severe allergy to any part of the vaccine, you may be advised not to get vaccinated. Once again, are you looking at all the ingredients in the vaccine and then going, you know what, let me go and test my kid, test myself to see if I have any allergies to the ingredients in this? I never did that. I don't know if others are, but I would gather from at least my experiences from a majority of the people that I know get vaccinated or get their kids vaccinated. I've never heard them say that they get tested, tested for allergies before they receive the vaccines. So I think that at least we should be making an effort to do that, right? I think our healthcare providers should probably be a little bit more adamant about saying, hey, let me tell you some of the risks. And even if they are minimal, it's still something that we should know, right? So scrolling down, the IPV, that's the polio vaccine, that has been used in the United States since 1987 is as effective as OPV for preventing polio. 2 doses of IPV provides 90% immunity protection to all 3 types of polio viruses. 3 doses provides at least 99% immunity, right? So once again, we're looking at a vaccine, just like what people object with the COVID vaccine, right? To say, well, why should I get it if I can actually get COVID again? Well, here's an example of another vaccine where you're not guaranteed that you're not 100% immune from it, right? It's never guaranteed 100% immunity. You can still contract polio if you get vaccinated. Granted, this is 99% if you get the 3 doses that they recommend, but it's kind of funny because in this next part below, it says for best protection, children should get 4 doses of polio vaccine. Well, why? If you're saying that 3 doses provides at least 99% immunity, what does 4 doses do? Does it provide 100% immunity or 99.1% immunity? It's kind of weird. I don't know. That's a question I certainly have. Why would you recommend 4 if you're saying 3 pretty much is doing the trick, right? So a little skeptical of that. Scrolling down, we have the polio vaccine information sheet. And when I take a look at this, we you know, we come across like this part. Polio has been eliminated from the United States, but it still occurs in parts of the world. The best way to protect yourself is, polio free, is to maintain high immunity protection in the population. So here's where they're saying it's been eliminated from the United States. But remember, when we originally started, it said that polio is now only considered polio if it's the paralytic version, because it's the paralytic disease. So once again, did we eradicate and eliminate polio from the United States, or did we just eliminate the paralytic version of polio, right? I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't think when polio was coming out with, in the 50s, and when they came out with the vaccines for it, I don't think that they were just, considering the paralytic version of polio is polio. So, feel free to do your own due diligence. Go look at that. Like I said, I'm not diving any deeper than the CDC's website. These are just surface level questions that I have reading the information that they provide. So moving on, it comes to a section where, what if there is a serious problem? And this is why I said, remember the age recommendations for the vaccines. You have, 2 months, 4 months, even if you're traveling, they recommend it 6 weeks or older. And reason I think that this is really strange or questionable is because in this section where it says, what if there's a serious problem? It says, an allergic reaction could occur after the vaccinated person leaves the clinic. If you see signs of severe allergic reaction, which includes hives, swelling of the face and throat, difficulty breathing, a fast heartbeat, dizziness, or weakness, call 911 and get the person to the nearest hospital. I'm just really curious if anybody out there has a 6-week-old, a 2-month-old, or 4-month-old child, infant, that can tell you if they're dizzy or weak. I mean, I couldn't even tell if they were dizzy. You ever try to dress a 6-week-old baby? What, are you kidding me? Of course it's dizzy. The kid flops all over the place. And they're weak, right? So obviously the other symptoms, hives, swelling, face and throat, those are visible things. But, if this is so dangerous to where if somebody's dizzy or weak, you need to call 911 and get them to the nearest hospital. Why are you recommending it for 6-week-old or a 2-month-old or a 4-month-old? People that can't tell you exactly what's going on with their body. Is this way too young to get vaccinated? Why are they pushing that if those are the possible side effects and those are the possible symptoms that you need to be aware of to know that you need to get to the hospital immediately if somebody can't physically say that they're experiencing those? I think that's a little bit strange. I think it's logical to want to question that and ask why they're recommending it for that young of an age. So, like I said, if you disagree, please leave a comment in the section below. Next, I always find this pretty funny, is the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, right? So they mentioned this, and this program is a federal program that was created to compensate people who may have been injured by certain vaccines. Claims regarding alleged injury or death due to vaccination have a time limit for filing. Why does it have a time limit for filing if you have a vaccine-related injury or death? That's kind of skeptical. I mean, what is, if you have proof, if you have things that are there, what is a time constraint there for? I mean, I guess I just really don't understand that, other than the only logical thing, I think everybody's thinking this, is because then they won't take the claim after a certain period of time, so maybe it can reduce the amount of claims that come in, because people probably don't even know about this program if they're not reading the websites. I don't know. It's just really weird. You have a time frame on there, and it's not even something that's solid. It's which may be as short as 2 years. Can it be shorter? I mean, it doesn't give a specific time frame. So I find it kind of interesting that they they claim all the safety about vaccines, right? And they urge you to go get them. And then they have vaccine injury compensation programs, right? There's a law out there that you can't federally, federal law that you can't, and I know, I guess we're kind of going a little off the CDC here, but that you can't hold liable a vaccine manufacturer or a healthcare provider that recommended a vaccine if something goes wrong. So that is why this injury compensation program has been created. And, when you have, severe injuries and death that can occur, I just feel like that's something that, people should be a little bit more aware of. And if it wasn't that common, I don't know why there would be a compensation program there, right? To me, and this is just my opinion, right? I'm not trying to, be censored or anything like that, but to me, this sounds like a hush fund, some sort of hush payment. And, you got to go through a claim. I mean, have you ever done a claim, like an insurance claim? Is it like an insurance claim? How ridiculous is that? Like, you have to put a claim in, and then they're going to, require scientific proof and all these different types of things. So it seems like it's there just to check a box. And I don't know. I would be curious if there's anybody out there that had a vaccine injury or knows somebody who does have a vaccine injury that went to and utilized this compensation program, and if their claim was actually awarded. That would be really interesting, or even denied. Like, definitely, reach out to me, put your comments in below for that as well. So that is some of the questions that I have with the polio vaccine. Obviously, it's a very hot topic. It's a very big point of discussion for people who, are for vaccination. They always come back and say, yeah, but vaccines helped eradicate polio. And when I hear that, and then I come and read the trusted source of the CDC here, and it says, well, now today, we only call polio, we only classify something as polio if it's the paralytic version. And, with other symptoms like meningitis, I do know that that's around. So really, what did it cure, right? Did it just cure the paralytic? Because that's what we're calling it. So, there's other paralytic diseases out there, and I've even read through the CDC's website, and it gives information for, healthcare providers, like how to, not misdiagnose polio, right? Because there's other things that are very similar to it. And like I said, do your own research, do your own due diligence for that. But, having information on there like that definitely tells me that there could be some cases where we still have it in the United States and it's not fully eradicated. So, I would really like to know everybody's thoughts. Join the Discord community. We can discuss it in there. We actually have a thread in there for vaccines specifically. We also have like COVID-19 elections, legislation that's being passed, legislation that's on the docket, and, just other topics that everybody can join in and discuss and share their thoughts, share articles, share videos, and just really have back and forth. And, it's geared toward anybody. I mean, this is America. It's the land of the free. We don't have to agree, right? But we can all respect each other, and that in this community, and listen to everybody's ideas and thoughts. You don't, like I said, you don't have to agree with them, but everybody in our Discord community can have a voice and talk about what they want to and believe, and and use logic and reason. So. If you like the video, you like the podcast, please remember to subscribe, like us, follow us on social media, join the Discord community. Link will be in the description below. We'll start trying to come out more regular with these episodes. Please leave some comments below as well. Just about anything in general, maybe even some discussion, some feedback, some ideas for other episodes. That would be great. And, hopefully we'll get another episode out here next week. So thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Think for yourself, come to your own conclusions, and have a great day.